Oliver Bearman did not wait for anyone to open a space for him. He simply dropped the absolute truth. He declared he is ready, right now, to take on a top-tier car. And that message lands like a catastrophic bomb, precisely at the moment Lewis Hamilton is living through the very worst year of his illustrious career within the Ferrari camp. Bearman is a true Ferrari protégé, having been groomed since he was 16, meticulously polished, protected, and prepared for a future that once seemed distantly theoretical. But everything changed on the day he was dramatically thrown into the Ferrari car at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to substitute for Carlos Sainz. That single weekend turned into an open, festering wound for Hamilton. 0 podiums in Ferrari. Not one. After so many years of collecting trophies as if it were a mere routine, he is now enduring the longest, most painful drought of his entire Formula One life. And the most agonizing part? This devastating statistic has tragically become an internal paddock joke. It is exactly at this critical juncture that the young Brit's message gained its extraordinary weight. Bearman was direct, unflinching, when asked if he is ready for a big team, with the focus clearly, blindingly on Ferrari, stating that the rest of his job is simply to prove it on the racetrack. And he made a point of reminding everyone of something many try to ignore. He spent several races finishing 11th, showing true, grinding consistency. He might not have shined on paper, but he delivered crucial points. As the Haas improved, he transformed those 11ths into strong top 10 finishes. Hamilton now has just 2 races left to desperately avoid a truly humiliating marker that would scar any experienced pilot, closing an entire championship season without a single podium finish. Qatar has become his breaking point. Hamilton absolutely must shatter this desperate drought. He must prove he is still the leader Ferrari paid a king's ransom to hire. And Bearman? He just needs to continue existing, continuing to deliver results, showing calm, controlled growth. Meanwhile, Gabriel Bortoleto emerged from the official FIA meeting in Qatar with a position that has put the entire paddock on high alert. He did not speak like a timid rookie. He spoke like someone who is finally tired of the political games and has resolved to expose the brutal truth about the track decisions that have tragically altered entire races. The meeting between drivers and stewards was publicly treated as a simple alignment session. However, the drivers arrived in Qatar with their heads boiling after a relentless sequence of opaque penalties that no one had properly digested. And for the first time in a very long time, everyone was aligned on a single, unified agenda. From the most grizzled veteran to the newest rookie, everyone agreed that the FIA's current, rigid guidelines are strangling the spectacle and creating decisions completely disconnected from the brutal reality of the racetrack. This is exactly what Bortoleto made fiercely clear upon exiting the meeting. He stated that the drivers were in total, unprecedented sync. The Brazilian explained that the FIA showed incidents, requested opinions, and attempted to justify recent penalties, but the overwhelming general perception was unified. There is an excessive, dangerous reliance on guides that were intended to orient but are now being treated as absolute, inflexible law. And the critical point of friction is that these restrictive guidelines utterly fail to account for the unique characteristics of specific circuits, the exact position of the car, and, crucially, the split-second situations where a driver locks a brake to actively avoid an accident. The discussion escalated dramatically when the name of Oscar Piastri was raised due to that absurd penalty in Brazil, when he locked his brakes into the first corner trying to avoid a collision with Kimi Antonelli, yet was still deemed guilty simply for the act of locking up. He explained what every driver knows and many stewards seem to ignore. There are specific corners with camber that induce locking even when the pilot is totally in control. There are defensive braking moments that naturally force a wheel block. There are moments when a driver locks up specifically to avoid destroying a competitor's car, and yet, the system still unjustly places the blame squarely on the driver. Zak Brown has finally shattered the silence over the punishment that tragically imploded the Las Vegas Grand Prix and left the McLaren team emotionally staggering. And for the very first time, he let slip something that many in the paddock have strongly suspected for weeks: the FIA is not entirely comfortable with its own decision. This fact, by itself, is a shocking scandal, because we are talking about a double disqualification that violently redrew the championship narrative and placed absurd, crushing pressure onto Lando Norris, who now sees both Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri breathing relentlessly down his neck. The McLaren CEO described the punishment as far too drastic for an error he termed microscopic. And when a CEO uses the word draconian to refer to the sport's highest governing body, it is because the situation has violently crossed a line. Brown explained that the plank wear thickness that destroyed the team's result was the equivalent of a single sheet of paper, a minuscule, fractional error that was transformed into a nuclear bomb dropped onto the championship standings. Brown then exposed an even more shocking layer of internal drama. According to him, the FIA is actively analyzing the case again because it recognizes that the impact of the penalty does not correspond to the real gravity of the error. This opens a gigantic, corrosive window of distrust. If the governing body believes the sanction was exaggerated, why did they apply it without considering context? Why did they not evaluate that the Thursday and Friday practice sessions were decimated by rain, preventing every single team from collecting precise data? Brown was direct. The car was not illegal at ride height. The wear came solely from the aerodynamic bouncing, or porpoising, and here arises the most uncomfortable point of all. If the FIA knows that this phenomenon can generate natural, incidental wear, why does it treat every case as if the team were deliberately cheating the regulations? Or worse, why did 9 teams manage to get it right and 1 fail? In the heat of the post-race turmoil, McLaren was furious. Norris lost vital points. Piastri lost a hard-fought podium, and the internal team battle gained an unexpected, volatile tension. Within the team, the feeling was one of profound injustice. Precisely because of this, the revelation that the FIA itself considers the punishment too severe has ignited a deeply troubling question in the background. Was the decision made solely by the letter of the rule, or was it influenced by the impact it would have on the championship? Zak Brown publicly rejects any theory of manipulation, but his very public comments make it terrifyingly clear that the issue remains deeply unsettling. And finally, Max Verstappen has ignited a gigantic, immediate red alert within the Red Bull team, right from the very first track activity in Qatar. And he did not mince words. He called the situation a disaster, a real, technical, serious disaster that has immediately exposed the hidden, fragile underside of the dominant team of recent years. While Oscar Piastri absolutely flew, opening the weekend with undeniable authority, Verstappen made it painfully clear that something fundamental is broken inside the Red Bull machine. McLaren started the Qatar Grand Prix weekend as if they were actively running over ghosts. After the chaotic events of Las Vegas, Piastri emerged with terrifying, blistering pace. First place, Norris right on his heels, and on the opposite side of the timing screens, the Red Bull team looked utterly lost. Verstappen languished in a demoralizing 6th place, and more than that, he spent the entire session complaining bitterly about the gearbox, the gear shifts, and the erratic behavior of his car. The phrase that shattered the team's already fragile morale came when he said that the clipping on the exit of Turn 6 was a disaster, and this is the most sensitive, critical point of the entire Qatar circuit. Norris can clinch the World Championship title this very weekend if he scores just 2 points more than both Verstappen and Piastri. And yet, on the very first track session, McLaren showed overwhelming, crushing strength while Verstappen showed signs of genuine panic. The Dutchman was almost 0.6 of a second behind the Australian. For a 3-time champion hungry for another title, that gap is nothing short of humiliating. And what makes the situation even more explosive is that Red Bull could not hide their discomfort. Qatar has already started cruelly for everyone. Absurd heat, cockpits melting drivers in minutes, tires restricted to just 25 laps due to high blowout risk, and wind violently messing up every braking zone. But even within this swirling chaos, McLaren appeared calm and comfortable while Red Bull sank deeper into doubt. Russell led half the session. Alonso looked strong. Hajar even surprised the field. Meanwhile, Piastri did exactly what a title contender must do. He improved at the precise right moment, nailed the perfect lap, surged to the top of the leaderboards, and placed an enormous, crushing weight onto the shoulders of both Verstappen and Norris. The Australian, even after the brutal, undeserved punishment in Las Vegas, has returned with fire in his eyes.